Okay. It seems to be a little thing out there. So, what I do want to say is that this is fascinating reading Sarah Harding's book because we can position ourselves like 1,000 years ago. We're actually coming up on Naropa's thousandth anniversary of his death. I think he died in 1040. So we're not too far off. Excuse me. Grab a little water here. So yeah, I just want to mention that for context, okay? And there will be different enumerations and presentations, but also really fascinating evidences of this full Nigma nine yanas, including all the tantra, breath meditation, everything included there. We can find it in that what we call now India, in that northern region, and of course where that Kumar village is, and this Manitula temple was, where I think that is probably where she was 1,000 years ago, giving teachings in probably the most fascinating ways. You probably she's probably the type of person to give a different teaching for every person that encountered her. Seems like, and um, for me, there's such a yogi kind of kinship there that I appreciate so deeply. So I'm looking forward to continuing to explore her biography. And it also gives you an idea of the humanity when we read the biographies. Many of these are fascinating. Uh, is that what they call hagiographies? Yeah. So these hagiographies are really fascinating, actually, because we tend to overly idealize Buddhahood and liberation, and so it becomes unobtainium that way in our mind. But when we really look at the life stories of these folks, we see that we are the same. We're like that. All of you are yogis. And that's what I love about Dzogchen and our group, how it ended up coming into being. It's accessible, it's all inclusive. If there's somebody with a Dzogchen connection out there and the internet connection, then they will find us, and they'll be able to have some benefit, which is the most important thing to me, is that we continue to have some liberation in our minds in a time where our minds seem like they're under attack. Everybody wants us to believe in their stuff and subscribe to their channel. And, the algorithms are manipulated so that propaganda is woven into the internet, social media platforms. So I just feel like it's a great time to really have that power back, to be empowered by this practice. And that's exactly what it does. We are not servants. We're not meant to just be suffering servants of the world. We have power, and the power comes when we liberate our minds. That's why I really like the Malcolm X quote, that's so telling. He says, the greatest mistake of the movement was that we tried to move a sleeping people. First, the people need to wake up. And as an activist, I wholeheartedly saw that in the streets, that how can we ever make any significant changes or strides in cultural improvements and things if we don't even have our minds right? And then there are people capitalizing on this fact that we have a kind of mind sickness that's prevalent. And so I know I'm getting a little deep and a little serious, but at the same time, I want to encourage the value in these practices for you. And, I venerate you for that. I don't praise politicians the way I praise you for freeing your mind. Okay. Nothing against if you're a politician, oh money home, good luck with that. So the internet can be a very negative place. Oh yeah, it, the internet seems like more and more becoming a true reflection of the human mind. What I always loved about the internet is that you'll get to hear what's really on people's minds. And it's a certain truth that we can make a peace with. A specific type of okay, hagiography refers to a specific type of biography that focuses on the lives of saints or revered religious figures. The term is derived from the Greek word hagios, meaning holy, and graphia, meaning writing. Very nice. Thank you, Yeshi. That's great. Always so wonderful to have you guys sharing that kind of stuff. Um, so the caveat there would be that sets it aside from a biography would be that they're a mystic or a holy person. That makes sense. All right. Well, let's get into the text here. I do hope this will continue to inspire and give light to Naguma's life and the impact that she's had on the lineage of awakening that we're all a part of. Oh, yes. Let me maximize. So, those of you who were in the last session, I felt it was a little bit rushed, and we're just gonna start over from family and friends. So, Naguma's family relationships are similarly elusive, particularly when it comes to her connection with Naropa. 956 to 1040 is his, I suppose, estimated or actual birth years. And then who knows the way this biography is going? That could be Naguma's birth years. So her contemporary, Naropa was her contemporary and great adept, whose teachings on the six dharmas that he learned from Talopa spread widely in Tibet. The names of Naguma's parents given above by Taranatha are indeed the same as the names of Naropa's parents, as given in his biography by Latsun Rinchen Namgyal from the 15th and 16th century. So that look how far and are similar in other biographies too. Just to finish that sentence, but I get caught up on dates. You have to pardon me. But that was quite a long time. That was something like 450 years after Naropa passed that he wrote a biography. That's something we might want to keep in mind. So these biographies tell the story of those parents' first child, Sri Jana, and how they had to perform special supplications for a male child after her birth. We also have the name of Naropa's wife, Vimala, or Vima Ladipi. In Tibetan, that would be Drime Pa or Drime Goma, with whom he parted to pursue his spiritual career. Naropa is sometimes said to be from Bengal in the east, but there's little evidence for this theory, and most authors locate his birthplace in Kashmir along with Naguma. Yes, and that is what's being contested by the link that Jetson shared. That person has found something in the Kumar village. Now, I'm not too familiar, but um, Kashmir seems to be a blanket term for a large area. So I don't know, maybe Sangi or somebody else may know this. Could it be Kumar within Kashmir? Like the region of Kashmir? I know it's in Bengal, though. and that place was a hot spot. Is that where you're located, Sangi? In Bengal? That is a hot spot for yogis in these Dzogchen Mahamudra traditions. I encourage you to visit the Manatula Temple in Kumar Village if you get a chance, and maybe live stream that to us. So anyway, it looks like Sangi is maybe not there, but I'm interested. I have a few questions about the geography.
The guy in the videos was saying Bihar, which is pretty central, like below Nepal. Kashmir is very far to the east. No,
Mm,
sorry, west.
to the
West
west. Okay.
India. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. I'm convinced of his video. I mean, he has videos showing the charnel grounds, showing Lake Soso or Sosa. He has, the locals are the secret. I'm gonna tell you all this in case you don't know. If you ever want to blur the lines between Hinduism and Buddhism, because the divide is exaggerated. I'm going to tell you that right now. This divide between Hinduism and Buddhism is highly exaggerated. I haven't seen anything in Hinduism that's not in the nine yanas. And that being said, um, a lot of people worship Naguma now as a kind of external deity, whereas we're practicing the teachings that she actually taught, which, from what I understand, um, these teachings were only really preserved in Tibet. They got uh, kind of banished, kind of erased out of that area in northern India, just below Nepal. It would make so much sense that there's many yogis there. So anyway, I just want to mention that that what we have here is people practicing deity practices which are provisional. They're there to prepare you essentially for Suchin Mahamudra type practices. And really, because the Buddha Dharma has been fragmented the way it was, the way it has been, people got stuck in certain parts of the path. For example, they got stuck with only worshiping one deity and never getting introduced to Dzogchen. So that would be like being in Maha Yoga, the eighth, or even, excuse me, the seventh yana, or the eighth yana, Anu Yoga, being stuck there forever because you never had access to the ninth yana. And that's not to say that, Ramana and Ananda Mai that we were discussing earlier, there are beings that I feel were accessing the same as Dzogchen, but this was fragmented, it was scattered. For example, I'm not sure if Ramana did deity practices. I don't think so. So that would be kind of Dzogchen split apart from other areas where there's deity practice. And that's why I use the nine yanas, by the way, as a real, basically, encyclopedia of the Dharma, where you can find everything. So locations do matter, and it really does seem like between the 6th and the 12th century, because of those Muslim invasions and everybody giving a hard time to people doing their mind science, they didn't want that, right? They wanted their religion to take control. Not all Muslims or anything like that. They were Islamic conquerors. So I think the word conqueror comes first, before Christian, before Muslim, before any of that. They were conquerors first, and so they're betraying their religion in a lot of ways. Maybe not with Islam. I don't know enough about it, but either way, it really seems like because of that, the Dharma was consolidated, pushed into Tibet and up around the Tarim Basin, where there's several locations like Kushtan and Khotan, uh, Kushta and Khotan, I think it's pronounced, where there's still locals there that talk about Buddha Shakyamuni visiting, King Ashoka's son visiting. So that's why if we were able to just go to all the locals and see these temples, you would see the 84 Mahasiddhis in local temples that are considered Hindu, but the 84 are revered in Vajrayana Buddhism. And so you see this kind of everywhere, you know. You have one interpretation by the academics, and then you have another interpretation that's much more. I mean, it's a larger scope. This goes pretty deep. You know, even the nomenclature, that terminology of Buddhism and Hinduism, is a Western thing. Mhm. Somebody want to jump in? Okay, somebody came unmuted there.
What was I saying about the, you ask anyone in modern India, quote Hindu, what they think of Buddha, like, oh yeah, number one, Buddha, incredible.
Yeah, I saw that too. And they revered Buddha Shakyamuni. That's right. So Lundup saying Ramana hiked a mountain named Arunachala, said be the manifestation of Shiva. Yeah, and that has an allegorical meaning, right? So if we think of that in terms of mind, and Shiva being an aspect of mind, it makes sense on a whole nother level, on a secret, ultimate truth level. So I'll continue. I just wanted to further contextualize some of this stuff. And from the looks of when I read through quickly in this book, she has an entire curriculum where you can pretty much find all nine yanas, even in this book, which is a 17 texts that Sarah Harding, the writer of this book, uh, extracted from the Tibetan Buddhist canon and was able to translate and also add some commentary here. So I think it's really great that we have access to this knowledge, and I'll just continue, okay? So there's even some evidence that Naropa's well-known hermitage of Pushpahari, Pushpahari or Pulahari, commonly identified as being on a hillock west of Bodh Gaya, may have been in Kashmir. In Naguma's biography, it simply mentions that Naropa was also in the area. Whoa. Jetson, any chance you saw that? I just saw the most giant, like blue, purple light fly through the sky. Oh my goodness. Woo. That was cool. All right. Hi, Naguma. So, all right. So here it seems like Sarah Harding. This book was published in 2010. She's she's convinced that Naguma's from Kashmir, and judging by the videos that I saw and all the evidence of the charnel ground and temple and the locals there, the locals are always the dead giveaway. I'm telling you, it's most likely that she was not in Kashmir. She was in the village of Kumar, and I don't think that term Kashmir encompasses the village of Kumar. So that's Bengal, from my limited understanding. So, despite any misinformed discrepancies, it would seem to be quite clear that Naguma and Naropa were sister and brother, as scholars, mostly Western, have insisted on suggesting that Naguma was his consort, perhaps his sister too, in a sort of tantalizing tantric gossip. All right, well, I'm going to say that given the fact that her biography was hijacked and used for Naropa, that's probably why it seemed like they had the same parents because the same biography was being used. But I'm more leaning into that they were partners, and she also probably was superior to him, for lack of better words. So, alas, it may be the great translator Herbert Gunther who started the trend. Ah, of course, Herbert Gunther. I know I've read a lot of his stuff. In his introduction to the life and teaching of Naropa, he makes a most puzzling allusion. Naropa's wife seems to have gone by her caste name, Niguma, and according to the widely practiced habit of calling a female with whom one has had any relation sister, she became known as the sister of Naropa. Gunther cites the Annals and the collected works of Losang Choki Nima. Oh, Losang Choki Nima, yeah. The 18th century Galupa scholar known as Tukwan Lama, as the sources where Naguma is stated to have been the wife of Naropa. However, both sources state nothing so definitive. Is it Annals? I'm going to say Annals. The Blue Annals, which devotes most of a chapter to the accounts of Naguma and her lineage, mentions her only as Naropa's sister, using the Tibetan word, looks like chamo, a combination of cham, an honorific, and ringmo, sister. The second source similarly says only that she is Naguma's kyam, as do all other sources in Tibetan that I have seen. A supplication to Naguma in the practice of the white and red Chichari Dakinis uses the unambiguous term ringmo, calling her the single sister of the awareness holder. Oh, that's beautiful. The single sister of the awareness holder. I gotta say, all my days in the Dharma, I haven't heard that line. It's very nice. So, admittedly, the word kamo can be used as mistress or wife, particularly as the senior of several wives. But given this benevolent meaning and the fact that we have the identical parents' names and the name of Naropa's real wife, why on earth would one choose to translate it as wife? Yeah, she makes a good point here. You have the name of Naropa's wife, and so maybe you could argue then that he had multiple wives, but let's continue. Even the translator Rorik does not do so in the Blue Annals and comments elsewhere that in the ancient language, Kam means always sister. Might even be Cam. I don't know if they're doing the Wali writing there. It could be Hyam. They use the back of the mouth a lot in Tibet. So it does seem to be that tired old need to attribute a woman's worth to her mate that plagues the annals of history, coupled with the scholarly penchant for repeating the confident pronouncements of former scholars. Yeah, so I've noticed that too many scholars just piggyback on each other, and so if one thing is wrong at the root, they'll just continue to get it wrong and re-quote it. So then next thing you know, you have 500 places saying the same wrong thing. So another possible source of confusion pertains to a supposed meeting between Naropa's Tibetan disciple Marpa and Naguma. In the introduction to the translation of Sangyon Haruka's biography of Marpa, called The Life of Marpa, the translator, the following information is offered, repeating the relationship in an even stranger way. After attaining his first realization of Mahamudra under Maitripa, Marpa returned to Naropa. This time Naropa sent Marpa to receive teachings from Naguma. Wisdom, Jana Dakini, adorned with bone ornaments. She was Naropa's wife before he renounced worldly life to enter the Dharma, and later she became his student and consort. Finally, she became a great teacher herself, and her lineage of teaching was taken to Tibet, though not Marpa, and continues to this present day. Unfortunately, our story here does not tell us very much about their meeting. Hold on a second, please. So it says Naropa sent Marpa to receive teachings from Naguma. Yeah, so that would further state most likely that Naguma was higher up on the chain than Naropa, and and then I guess this is the part that's a mistruth, according to Sarah Harding. She was Naropa's wife before he renounced worldly life. That would not make much sense to me that Naguma, who's pretty much seems to have led a very Dakini-like life. Well, she did come from the Brahmins, so it's hard to tell. It was 1,000 years ago, So all these little nuances to me aren't that important. They're interesting, but we have more text to read, that are fascinating in terms of the nature of our mind and everything, hearing from 1,000 years ago. So all these little scholarly differences that they're finding here, to me, I'd rather read the source text and just pull my own ideas out of it. So yeah, we can continue. So the Tibetan text reveals that Marpa was indeed sent on two separate occasions, first by Naropa and later by Shantibhadra, to meet a certain Dakini called simply by the metonym adorned with bone ornaments. That reminds me of my human bone mala that I had that the dogs chewed up and ate. Yeah, if you have dogs, probably not best to have bone ornaments. So So, what's great though is that when we meditate, we can actually tune into our skeleton and really start to see that mm, um, beyond this body constraint. Yeah, that's a yogi pro tip. If you have dogs, don't wear bone ornaments. They'll snatch them off your neck. So, nowhere does it mention Naguma specifically by name in this or other biographies of Marpa. It is true that in later eulogies, Naguma is described as wearing bone ornaments, but I believe this could be considered a regular wardrobe for dakinis, whose options were generally confined to charnel grounds. Better evidence of their identity, that similar attire would be that both Marpa's Dakini and Kyungpo Naljor's Naguma can sometimes both be found in the same great cemetery of Sosavipa, Tibetan Sosaling. And see, that's why said to be, excuse me, I always get caught up like that. Let me finish the sentence. Said to be just to the west of Bugaya and the vacation spot of many a great master, including Padmasambhava. All right, so honestly, the way this text, you could tell it's been edited many times because the flow is it, I feel like the flow is not really the greatest, but that's okay. This is, by the way, if anybody followed the video from Buddha Exhumed that Jetson shared yesterday, there's a lake there in that town of Kumar, in that village of Kumar. It's called Sosa Lake, right, which is considered another pronunciation of this Shenzhen. But so that is also very telling of her location. And then he's also the person who made the video is convinced that Padmasambhava was hanging out in that area. So that's fascinating stuff, And the person who made the video, I don't have his name. I'm sorry. That's why I keep saying the person who made the video. Um, the author of Buddha Exhumed, that channel, he's really passionate, saying that people from Tibet should be down there praising these locations, honoring them the way they honor locations in Bhutan and Tibet. And maybe he's got a point there, they should be venerated. And he has a kind of discovery there. He discovered Naguma's birthplace. The only thing is, there's only so many people that care about it. Uh, the context has been mangled. So you either care about it in a Hindu context or you care about it in a Vajrayana context. If it's in a Vajrayana context, it's going to be a lot more people caring about it than just that village of Kumar. So he wants to get it out there to the Tibetans and let them know how special these places are in Bengal. And I don't blame him for that. But I feel like connecting with us could have been a way to do that because our group is growing and we have a lot of people in this group. And sharing the information with us could have been a way to get it out there. So, but books are very important. Selling books is important too, I suppose. So It was also, however, a famous Dakini gathering spot. In Marpa's biography, he finds the bone-decked Dakini on two occasions. Once he receives the empowerment and instructions in the four seats tantra from her, and the second time he receives a prophecy about meeting Naropa after he had already passed away. Given the widespread prevalence, even requirement, of Dakini encounters on the spiritual path of yogis, this account gives us nothing to cling to. Moreover, there is no account wherein Niguma receives any teachings from Naropa, though the similarity of the content of their teachings might lead one to believe otherwise. But how do we know that it was not the other way around, that Naropa did not receive teachings from his big sister or his partner, you know? But I'm not going to go into it anymore. It's just kind of what a debate. These nuanced debates throughout history can be so tantalizing, right? So anyway, let's move on to teachers. Yes, you have a sharing there. Academic humanities theories all have this quality. Someone thinks something against the grain. It's a way of making one's name. Yeah, otherwise you'd just be repeating what everybody else is saying, right? You wouldn't be unique if you didn't have something like that. For me, so far, I'm really piecing it together that Naguma was a teacher, which would make sense. So a little bit older than Naropa, and um, was most likely his teacher. And because of the patriarchal environments, it ended up being Naropa's six dharmas instead of Naguma's six dharmas. So that's my best guess.